Hey everyone, this is Daryl from Toronto, and for assignment number 4 of Introduction to Music Production at Coursera.org, I thought I would talk a little about the Dynamics Processing VST plugin that comes default in Adobe Audition 3.0, and we'll be talking about this plugin today in the context of downward compression. So once you're in your edit view, as I am here, you can go over to your side panel, and under the Effects tab, under Amplitude and Compression, you'll find Dynamics Processing. As an alternative method, you can go to your Effects menu, to Amplitude and Compression, and to Dynamics Processing. Now this graphic represents along the bottom your input level, and along the side your output level. This node represents the threshold for your Dynamics processor, and that's going to be the level at which the processor starts to take effect on your music or on your audio. And then once you start changing the output, you're going to get a ratio here. This little angle is going to represent that ratio, and that's going to be the compression ratio. Basically, the higher that ratio, the more compression that's going to take effect on your sound. Now, when we look at the traditional tab, you're going to see the same information. It's just going to be spelled out in a way that you can actually manipulate it a bit easier. This menu allows you to choose whether or not you want to use a compressor, which is going to make your loud parts quieter and your quiet parts louder, or an expander, which is going to make your loud parts louder and your quiet parts quieter. It allows you to adjust your ratio, which is the amount of compression, and then it allows you to adjust your threshold as well. So you can use, I tend to eyeball it here on the side. It's a pretty good little system here with the grid set up, so that you can see as you go across kind of what kind of an effect your compression is, or your dynamics processor is going to have on, say, your transients here at the beginning of these drum hits. When you go to the attack and release tab, you're going to look at the number one, the attack time. And your attack time, these are kind of complicated to figure out at first, but after a while you'll get the hang of it. The attack time is expressed in milliseconds, as you can see here, and that's basically how many milliseconds before you want the plugin to kick in once the sound has passed the threshold, or your envelope has passed your threshold. And release time is how fast you want the volume to come back once the sound is dropped below the threshold again. So you can create swells and curves by adjusting these to longer times, or you can make them just go up and down immediately using really short times. Your level detector here is for your input gain. This is basically just to get an idea of how loud the sound is perceived as, and this RMS here as your root mean squared, and that's the method at which it's looking at the sound and trying to figure out how loud it seems to be. And on the bottom, in your general settings, your look ahead time is kind of neat, because if you set your look ahead time a little bit farther ahead, it'll allow the program to look ahead. Basically, it puts a delay on the signal, but not on the envelope itself. So you can stop a transient before it happens, which is nice, because you don't want to have to wait for it to happen before you try to compress it, because it's kind of hard to do it at the same time. And noise gating is where you want the gate to be implemented, and that gate is just going to drop the sound immediately. So I have a noise gate on some of my guitar effects. It allows me to mute my strings, and then the gate will kick in automatically and kill the sound, so that you don't get any noise between parts. And band limiting I haven't really used much of, but it's pretty neat, because you can adjust at certain frequencies. You can do the compressor, or you can adjust the dynamics at certain frequencies. And one last thing I wanted to show you here, this little spline curves button is kind of your ability to add a knee to this, and it makes it a little bit of a softer transition. As you see here, it hasn't changed anything, but if I were to, say, pull the threshold out a bit, and see how I'm adjusting along the x-axis as well here, it's actually adjusting to get that. When we go back to here, you'll see that it's actually brought in a second compressor, and this is a second dynamics processor, and it's an expander, and that allows it to get that knee to the curve. You can get really complex with some of the stuff that you do here. I'm not going to get into depth here, but it's neat. If you want to get in, you can make some pretty crazy sounds by just adding lots of different compressors and expanders at different thresholds and at different ratios. So I hope this was helpful for you, and I appreciate that you've taken the time to watch it, and we'll see you later.